notification that it's recording. Okay, well, now there it goes. All right, it said it was recording for like 5 seconds. I'm like, it's not really recording, is it? Anyways, hello everyone. This is Crota coming at you, giving you game 1 in a series. This is going to be CXQ versus Alice, excuse me. We see CXQ spawning as the blue undead player on the top left-hand side of the map. This is Ancient Isle. Meanwhile, he will be going up against Alice spawning on the bottom right-hand side of the map under the name G1. We'll see how this particular game goes in this series, as we are opening up with an Altar of Elders and also getting up that Ancient of War. Now, what are we going to be seeing from the Undead? It looks as though Ziggurat standard timing on that Altar of Darkness, and I wouldn't be surprised to see an early Death Knight with Unholy Aura in order to put pressure on an unsuspecting or even a suspecting Night Elf player. We'll see how the buildings will be built here. I wouldn't be surprised if Alice decided to build 2 to 3 additional Moonwells, as those Moonwells are very beneficial even if you are not nowhere near your supply cap. The additional healing based off of the Moonwell, and that being the only real way to get healing, is a very, very big deal. I remember back in the Reign of Chaos days, players had thought that Night Elf was just simply far too powerful because of the ability to heal early on with those Moonwells, those buildings being able to regenerate your army and then push back out further. However, once Frozen Throne came out and then pretty much every single race had their way of healing relatively early on, those Moonwells became more of a moot factor, and now it feels like Night Elves are a little bit on the short end of the stick. Let's see what's going to be happening here, at least in the Undead versus Night Elf matchup during the early stages. We are looking at an early Warden, and Warden first on a map like this, I actually like it a lot. The Warden can easily shut down a ghoul or two with those Shadow Strikes, and the fact that the Death Knight may try to go for Unholy Aura first really cuts down how much healing the Death Knight can do. Add in the fact that the Shadow Strike also slows down that ghoul as he is trying to escape, means that the Warden can much more easily get his ghoul down and perhaps get to level 2 that much faster. Ogre Magi looks like it will get taken down there. Ring of Protection right there, as the Ancient of War really needs to start healing up. Gonna start eating up some trees right there, as we now see a Forest Troll Trapper, the final item there, as the Ancient of War really not taking that much damage. Well, nope, now taking some damage from that Forest Troll Trapper. Suspect some skeletal minions to come in right there in just a moment. Tome of Intelligence, as the Death Knight may use a Rod of Necromancy charge, decides against it, as we now see an Ancient of War being built off over here. This Ancient of War, more of a second Ancient of War to act as protection, as we can see the skeletal minions now making their way back down. Ancient of Wars are going to be trying to train up more and more archers, and are we going to see that opening where archers transitioned into Hippogriff Riders? Hippogriff Riders extremely powerful during the early portions of the game, but then again, if your opponent is going for gargoyles, that may be a little bit of an uphill battle as well. The archers would have to immediately dismount to add in a little bit of extra damage there. Meanwhile, Archer taking a little bit of damage there so far, and the Warden really wants to try to finish off that skeletal minion. Not going to be able to do so, and it is important as the Warden now gets to level 2. Exactly at 200 experience, and the Death Knight knows his time is pretty much up. He is not going to be able to continue that pressure up against a level 2 Death Warden unless there are a series of ghouls that are added into this fight. Coming back around, skeletal minion, that time life will pretty much be gone in just a moment. Warden with that 6 armor, a little bit more, a little bit more unafraid, of a little bit more bold in trying to get into very, very bad positions. You can see that the ghouls are trying to get in position there, and the Unholy Aura only at level 1, not able to get a surround on that Warden, even though the Warden doesn't have Boots of Speed. Meanwhile, more and more archers are being trained here, and we are attacking the tier 2. So this is going to be a very, very strange battle. Archers are still being trained, but no, there's one archer there, and yeah, we are going up to 5 archers already. So this is either a commitment into the Hippogriff Rider strategy, or an overproduction of archers, as the archers' effectiveness really drops off later on. Let's take a look at this. All of those ghouls right there, archers are all over here. They may end up getting taken down relatively quickly. They are low on hit points, and those ghouls will be able to swarm in relatively quickly. There is that Shadow Strike, and that is what I mentioned earlier, that one low hit point ghoul just taking far too much damage. If the Warden can get in front and perhaps blink ahead of it, just get the hit right there. Beautifully done. No experience gain because it was a tree hit, but then again, he'd rather just take down the ghoul, ensure the kill, ensure a less effective harassment coming in from CXQ, as Alice is nearly at tier 2. Meanwhile, Halls of the Dead still here, and it looks like we're staying at tier 1. Halls of the Dead. Necropolis, sorry. We're staying at tier 2 as the Naga Sea Witch is now back out onto the field. The Ancient of War was trying to do a little bit of creeping and then ends up getting caught out of position. Archer going to get taken down as the Death Knight now finally on the board with a small amount of experience. Warden now trying to engage here. You can see Archer doing some damage as there is a little bit of slow. Now the Naga Sea Witch going to turn around and get some damage onto that Ancient of War as the Warden is going to be going after that Naga Sea Witch pretty much exclusively. The Death Coils, even if the Death Knight was at level 2, would not be able to heal that Warden there, as you see the creep camps really just wandering very, very far over. That I am a bit surprised about, as we are now going into a Hunter's Hall. Hunter's Hall now done. We are now going into Ancient of Lore, so it may have just been a lot of archers to handle any sort of ghoul rush here, and the archers' effectiveness will start to fall off pretty dramatically. We are now taking a look back over here. Archers, Ancient of War now trying to engage here, and this is pretty much a very, very difficult spot to try and fight. You can see Ancient Protector now being built in here as well. There is a second Ancient of Lore. Naga Sea Witch going to be getting in some easy damage as a quick detonation takes out all the skeletal minions in a second. Warden now trying to fight back here, has plenty of mana, could easily turn around. Archers instead being healed in this fight so far, as a Shadow Strike does go down onto that ghoul. The ghoul does end up getting taken down there. I'm not sure if any experience was gained in that little scuffle there, as the Naga Sea Witch could have denied it. It looks like it did, but let's continue this fight back now as the Warden continuing this fight here. All right, no more Shadow Strikes. Warden a little bit worse for wear, taking a lot of damage, needs to heal back up. There are plenty of Moonwells, and she is able to do exactly that, but Nightfall is about to be over. Ancient of Lore number 1 about to be completed. Number 2 not too far behind, as the Warden may be able to get off a Shadow Strike. No, Potion of Healing that Naga Sea Witch there, as the archers now try to run back once more. Oh, Staff of Preservation saving the archer there. A tier 2 item that is really, really questionably possibly tier 3. Such a strong item, able to save early units and prevent the snowballing effect that the undead players often need, as they are a little bit more difficult to try and level up their heroes against those early game creeps. Now, I heard a couple comparisons about just undead players having a hard time trying to get to a higher hero level, saying that orc players can often get their Blade Master or their Archmage from human players up to level 3 before the Death Knight can get to level 2. And that's often, or that's mainly because that the other races have an easier time creeping overall. The undead, however, once they get to level 3, I'd really fear 2 level 3 undead heroes versus 2 level 3 orc heroes. The Frost Nova and Death Coil hero new composition and combination is just that much more scary, making those 2 heroes just slightly more powerful, even though the base numbers say otherwise. Now, let's go ahead and, say that they should be even. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look down over here. The Warden going to pull back aggro, though, and be able to finish off this Null Brute creep camp, getting to level 3. The Warden is the one taking the majority of that damage there. Makes sense. It does have the highest armor out of all of those units, meaning that it is going to take the least amount of Moonwell juice in order to heal back up. No, I do not see any use of any of the Moonstones yet, so a little bit curious there, as the Death Knight still sitting at level 1. Naga Sea Witch sitting at level 1, while the Warden is sitting at level 3. Solo Warden can be very, very scary in those upcoming fights, especially if that Warden does get to level 6, but I do not know if we'll even get there. Death Knight going to get... Oh, is the Death Knight going to be out of range? That would be a very big tragedy. Wow, he walks over just in time. Both the Naga Sea Witch and the Death Knight get to level 2. And that is going to be a very big deal, all of a sudden having to deal with Death Coil, that a little bit additional hero nuke, and also perhaps some Fork Lightning from that Naga Sea Witch if another Obsidian statue joins the fight to replenish the mana of those main heroes. Coming back around, 50 over 50 supply. This looks like a rather small army. You got to remember, archers are archers, even though they are relatively low on damage and relatively not that effective in these upcoming fights here. We'll see how this is all going to play out. Obsidian statues are still being added, and we are still looking at a primarily crypt army. There have not been any additional abominations or anything of that nature, even though we are at Black Citadel. All right, let's take a look. Lich has been added, so the full undead triple hero combination has come into play. Lich with that Orb of Corruption, -5 armor, should be more than enough to deal with those pesky low hit point archers. In addition, the Druid of the Claw is sitting at mastery training though, so once those are in bear form, they are going to be extremely difficult to take down. Mana Stone being picked up by the Warden, that is going to be extremely helpful there, as the Druids of the Claw still doing plenty of healing. Let's take a look back over here. 46 over 50. Still looking at a larger army coming in off from the north. Crypt Fiends are there as well. I do not see any signs of destroyers just quite yet, as the fight now getting underway. Only one obsidian statue, with a second obsidian statue being microed to make sure it does not get into harm's way as it attempts to reinforce. Very, very strong play by the Undead going after those low hit point Moonwells, as we may see a bit of focus fire here. Staff of Preservation should be used here in just a moment. There you go. Ghouls not going to try to chase that bear, but decides to against it. Warden sitting at level 4, and Warden still has plenty of mana with that Mana Stone. Meanwhile, Death Knight very, very low on hit points. Is he going to use that Scroll of Healing? Yes, he does, but he is still in a little bit of trouble. Has no Scroll of Town Portal, and the Death Knight falls at level 2. That is going to signal a very, very massive retreat, as the Warden still has plenty of damage to do with those Fan of Knives, taking down ghoul after ghoul. Yes, an Archer has fallen as well, but let's continue this chase back over here. Lich still sitting at level 1. There is another Fan of Knives there. Warden has pretty much done everything needed to be done, and there is the final score, a level 4 Warden finishing off the level 2 Naga Sea Witch, level 2 Death Knight, and level 1 Lich. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed game 1, where Alice took out CXQ. Please stay tuned for game number 2.